Hello, everyone. I am here again. This is another Friday evening with Money Matters Live. And today we have a great guest. We have Mr. Stevenson, our guest, our returning guest, will I say. Thank you so much, Mr. Stevenson, for making our time to share your business idea. But before we go into the show proper, let me just go straight to introducing what the show is all about and also introducing my humble self. Money Matters has to do with, it's a movement that talks about money. We know that financial literacy is never taught in the four walls of a university or school or college. We get to learn it, we get to stumble across it as we go on in life. And so when we come to Money Matters, we talk about means by which we can make, manage, and multiply our money. So we learn about financial literacy, financial planning, financial discipline, all for the sake to leave a good inheritance for our children, and to live a better life. It is said that, before you get to, multiplying your money, you must have something you have saved. So we'll talk about savings. We'll talk about where you can put your savings into so your money can work for you when you're not actively working. We'll talk about a life insurance, health insurance. We'll talk about businesses you can do in the 21st century. And we'll talk about how do you get your business to those who need your business, who need your solution, who needs the knowledge that you have. So you have to find a medium by which you can get your services, your products to those who have need for them. And so today, that's what we do in Money Matters. And so my humble self, my name is Sandra Uko. I'm a leadership coach with the Maxwell. I'm a trainer. I'm also an IT sales expert of over 20 years in the sales industry. I'm a member of the Toastmaster, and I'm a best-selling author, and just recently got gifted the Presidential Lifetime Award. I'm excited. I'm a joyful person. And today I have a great guest for me and Money Matters Life. We talk about money because once you have a proper and a better plan, you can live a peaceable life. One of the reasons we have a lot of trouble in the world and with couples and everyone here and there is because of money. When we have money in our hands, everyone is happy. But beyond money, there's much more than money. Relationship, like I will always tell people, so the currency of relationship far outweighs that of money, because money can get finished, but relationship, you cannot. When you have great relationship, you can make more money. You just need one connection to get to where you want to go to, and money keeps rolling in. So today we have our great guest. He will be introducing himself and telling us about his business, his experience, his ups and downs in his business, so we can glean and learn from his wealth of experience. The floor is all yours, Mr. Michael Stevenson. I'm excited to have you this evening. You're welcome.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thank you very much.
So you tell us about yourself and about your business. What are your experience? What can we learn from your business so that others that are coming behind can learn from you and, take one or two nuggets to starting up their own business?
Okay. Right now, I decided at my late age, because I'm 74 years old now.
Yeah.
And I've acquired a lot of experience, both in business and in life. And I felt utterly compelled to go out and to speak. Now, I have to be invited to speak. I can't just spring up everywhere. So I want businesses to employ me, because one of the things that we're facing just now is workplaces that are very disconnected at the moment. Not just because of hybrid, but I think we've got a young generation that's very, very anxious. They're the most future-phobic generation ever recorded. And I'm not surprised. We've had COVID. We have war in the world. We've got the threat of a third world war. People are talking about nuclear again. I mean, it's absurd. And also, we've got economies that are based on having, very few people with, I think something like 100 people own over half the world's resources. When you think about that about 100 people own over half the entire global resource. And so we've got poverty. We've got people who can't make it out of their poverty because there are so many restrictions. We've got people at work who are frightened to put their hand up because they've not been raised to believe that they've got a voice that's worth listening to. So I want to open up those possibilities for people. I mean, it starts with them. I mean, I had a life where I was, I got thrown out of school. I was sleeping out. I went through very difficult years. This is long before I set up business, and I never forgot those experiences. And I'll tell you a story actually, which really changed my whole perspective on life. It was when I was sleeping out, and it was very cold in London that night. I live in Scotland now because I'm from Scotland, but it was in London that I found myself on the streets. And one night, a van drew up and they offered me accommodation for the night. So I said yes, because I was freezing. So they took me to this big hostel. And when I arrived there, I was shown into a tiled room and I was told to take my clothes off. The next thing I know, there was a hose pointed at me. So I felt so humiliated. I escaped back into the streets because at least I felt I had dignity there. And here was an organization trying to help me that made me feel small. And I realized then that, there are even people doing their jobs that can take people down, that can humiliate them. You think of a really difficult receptionist, for example, the kind of gatekeeper, and they ask you questions and they want to make you feel that you have no power or purchase over them. And we've got people like that in all kinds of positions. So from that day on, I vowed that in all my communication, you've got a choice between lifting people or sinking their spirits.
True.
Every single interaction, whether you're in a shop, whether
Yeah,
you're
you
sitting
either
in a
lift
trap.
or bring people down.
Yes. So I've chosen always to raise people up. I mean, I don't do it in a spiritual way. I just do it in a kindness way. I notice things about people. I say things that, I've got a sense of humor. I've got the facility to help someone who's looking a bit lost. All of those things, all these interactions offer me and other people opportunities to make someone's day, if that makes sense.
That's good. That's true.
Yeah. So I took that philosophy. So when I lost my business in, 2000, I think it was 2014, after the banking crisis, I tried to keep going. I had a creative business that was doing incredibly well. I had money in my pocket. I was living the high life. And then the banks let us down. Let's be honest. It wasn't just something that happened. It was that people got greedy. And that greed meant they overstretched themselves. And then who suffers? It's the poorer people that suffer. It always is. And you think, that can't be right. Why is it that when someone who's, got billions of pounds makes a mistake, that people who've got nothing have even less? So I also see a world that's very unequal. So when I set out on this speaking, I was very determined that in the workplace, in communities up and down the country, there are people whose voice is not being heard. And I want them to raise their voice, but I want to give them the confidence to believe that they have a voice worth listening to. And also to understand that they've got talents. And when you explore it with people, they begin to express the talents they've got. And sometimes they don't even know they've got these talents. When someone comes up and says something really eloquently, I say, wow, you've got a brilliant way of speaking. Do you realize that? And they say, no. I say, you speak with soul. You understand people. You've got, what else do you do with your life? And they say, well, nothing much really. And only when you ask them, do they say things like, well, on a Saturday morning, I go and I help this old lady who lives down the road. I go and get her shopping and bring it back for her. We sit and have a cup of tea. Because she used to look after me when I was a child. And now I'm paying something back. And on the Sunday, I go out and I help some of the younger kids to kick a football about and teach them some skills. And I say, but you said you had nothing to offer. That's a lot. That's more than a lot of people have ever done in their life. And they say, do you think so? And I say, absolutely. That means that you've got something to give to people. But
Sure.
not only do you have something to give, you do give it when you're given the chance. I tell you what happens to you though, when you leave your community, you feel like a fish out of water. And that's what happens. So I want to take more fish out of the water and throw some of the other fish back in the water because that's what we need to do. We need to understand that the world is not full of people that are better than other people. It's full of people who are greedier than other people. And that's the difference. So I do speak about this, and I speak about it with business people too. I say, if you're in business, yes, you want to make a profit, you want to make money, you want to generate work for other people, but you've also got to think about future generations. Does that make sense? When you
Yes.
think about climate change, what right have some very rich people to say, there's no climate change, it's just a crank? It's not. It exists. It's happening. And as the world gets hungrier and drier, and the rivers dry up and the plants stop growing, then people will have to move as refugees. And then when they arrive on our shores, we say, oh, wait a minute, you can't come here. So we try and lock the gates to people who are leaving starvation and warfare, and we turn them into enemies in some way. So I talk against all that. And I can do it with some authority because I've experienced some of these things. So that's my business now. And who would have ever believed when I was 15 that I would make money out of speaking to large audiences? Not
No
me.
one.
No one.
True.
Yeah. I'm a performer. I sang and I played the guitar and I did some acting when I was younger, but that was the only clue. And now I can speak for hours. I don't, by the way. That would be awful for people, but I can speak. And I do it from the heart because, I think we live in a world where people hear you when you speak emotionally. They don't hear when
You're
you're trying
able
to.
to connect.
Exactly. People giving you facts and figures. Sorry. I mean, there are some facts and figures which are worth repeating. One is that the amount of money the world spends in arms every year is 700 times greater than UN's budget. So United Nations gets 700 times less than what we spend on arms. And it makes you think we're actually spending more on war than on peace. And we've got to change that. That doesn't make sense. How can I look any, child in the eye and say, well, we made the world a better place for you? Because we haven't yet. We've got to do that. And I've got to think about when they're my age, will they still be here? I'm determined they will be. And I think business must focus on the future as well as the present. And that's a big message at the moment. In fact, I'm writing a book on it called Enduring Leadership. And we need leaders now, not just leaders who've been elected, but leaders, people who
Passionate.
yes, who are passionate, who believe in something. I want to take people out of, this whole belief that they don't have the gifts to offer the world because they have. That's my message. And in the workplace, of course, that matters because, they're working, producing products. Some people don't even know the vision of their company. They feel so detached. They're just employed to do a job, like a task. And I say, no, if you're in work, you're working for that business. You're working and you want to know that that business has got good intentions, yes, to make money, but also, to make sure that that business is making the right investments in the future of the world, because that's what we all should be doing just now. Very anxious and frightened young generation. And when you think about the world we're living in just now, and you look at your news channels and you see what people are saying, and we appear to be in the brink of a third world war. People are talking about nuclear again, and we are seeing this hateful dialogue between people. And I feel a great responsibility to assuage their anxieties, but also we've got some amazing young people who are really powerful in their speaking, who are not afraid to put their head above the parapet and to challenge the status quo. And I want to encourage them. We've got some amazing young people. If you think about the environmental campaign that's been launched around the world in the last few years, you'd think of how young some of the people were who really kept going in that campaign. When people were telling them they were nuts and this was just hooky science and there's no climate change because we want to keep drilling for oil. But they've taken it on. They haven't stopped. And I want more people to believe in a different kind of world and to push for it, not just to be buffered about by, what political leaders believe is right for them. Because we live in democracies, and democracy is about representing the people. It's not about representing yourself. So it's really important. We've got a young generation who are ready to stand up and be counted, and I want to give them a voice and the confidence and the channels to be able to express themselves. And that's a personal mission of mine. I don't necessarily look for payment for that, but because I get my money from conferences, from companies that are doing, their own internal conferences. That's where I make my money. And I want, quite simply, I want to make the world a better place. Now, I don't know how many years I've got left, but I certainly want to make sure that I've left my mark. And my mark is a more confident population, that has got the ability and the voice to make changes themselves, because we can't depend on people that believe they were born to be leader, because they're not. I think leadership is something that it's not assigned. Leadership is something that, people who lead do it quite naturally. They're magnetic, they're charismatic, they believe in people, they like people, they want people to get on. And I think we've got a lot of leaders emerging. They're young. And, I want to see them nurtured, because it's very easy for people in power to put them down, to cut them to size. And we can't afford for that to happen.
So how do you plan to reach out to help the world itself to be a confidence society?
Well, I think it does start with young people. I mean, in terms of the long term, it starts with young people. Because if we don't, give them today a sense of their value, their significance, and their agency to change the world, or to change their part of the world, then they'll grow up with the same kind of beliefs so many other people have grown up with, that it's not them. They've got no power, they've got no purchase on this decision making. Of course they have. So that's the first thing. But I also want to make sure that older people have dignity when they reach their later years, and there's health. And we keep learning. The idea that, education is for people of a certain age, and then, people say to you, have you finished your education? They say that to you in 20s. Have you finished your education? The answer to that has always got to be, I'll never finish my education, because I'm always
Please
learning.
continue.
Yes.
Avid read
Lifelong
learners.
learning. Yeah. I mean, I think learning is the elixir of life. Every time you learn something new, there's an excitement.
There's a joy in you.
Yes, you see little children running home from school when they've drawn a picture of they've learned something. But we should be like that too. Even in my 70s. I've been trying to learn about artificial intelligence today. I mean, I like being a novice. I like going back to learning something I know nothing about, because it really kind of tests you, doesn't it? But the excitement you get when you can do something that you were never able to do before is fantastic. And I want to jump up and down like a child, but I live alone, so no one would hear it. Does that
Awesome.
make sense?
It does. Really does. Thank you so much. But that's a great one, you know, with your business making money and also wanting the world to be a better place and wanting the younger generation to emerge as great leaders. That's a great one. But in a way, how would you reach out to helping them? I probably would think that by giving back, having some kind of free seminars and webinars to
Yep.
get young people together, because that's one way
Yep.
to reach out. What do you
Yes, well, now I got a phone call from someone tonight saying they're organizing something in this community. And would I speak? I said, of course I will. So, but you're right. I think we do. We've got to connect my generation with the younger generation
True.
because, you know, I think it is the most fantastic chemistry. Because I'm grandfather age now. I've got no children, so I could be a great grandfather. In fact, I'm a great great uncle, but that's because my sister had lots of children, and she's now got grandchildren, great grandchildren, and so on. But it really is important to connect the age groups again, because when I used to go out as a teenager and in my late teens, when you entered a bar, there were people of all ages there. You know, it wasn't, this is a young person's pub. You wouldn't be seen dead in over 30. Everyone just went to the same bars. And I was always magnetized by older people because I could learn things from them. And I felt a kind of privilege when an older person took you under their arm and they gave you advice and they guided you. Does that make sense? When you cut off that link, then, you know, it leaves a void. It leaves a real void. And I'm trying to fill that. So I do volunteer work and I go to schools. And I think when I was in business, I invested quite a lot of the money that we made with schools, schools that weren't doing particularly well. And, you know, it was extraordinary, really, just to see how young people who were considered to be in the lower end of the academic scale were so bright in other ways, you know, and yet education judges people by their academic attainment. And that's just one measure. You know, what about the artists? What about the great speakers? What about, you know, the actors? What about the dancers? And we didn't value that at all at school. And it's still changing very, very slowly. What about the people that make food? You know, the world needs to get interested in food again. And we need to work out how we can feed people. There are people in poor communities that do that all the time. And that's an amazing thing. And do we celebrate them? Well, not really. They're just doing something in their community. These are remarkable people, you know, and we should be celebrating them.
Sure,
and
true.
get some of our politicians off the front pages, you know, because they occupy too much space.
And that's true. That's true. And that's true because when you try to applaud and recognize what this young generation are doing, they will want to give more. They want to give more. It's awesome seeing you using your business skills to helping the generations that are coming up. And that's why I said, I love what you said, you know, all age, when you go out, you see all ages, you know, having the younger generation connecting with the older generation. That's a great one. That's the only way you can pass wisdom. And that's the only way you can pass experience to the younger generations. I want to say thank you so much for your time. I know if we keep talking, we'll be here till tomorrow, but thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed every moment of our time together, sharing your experience in your business and how you've impacted your world and how you intend to still keep doing it. It's awesome. It's awesome. I really do appreciate you. I also want to thank our audience who are on this show. Thank you for following. Thank you for being on this show. Thank you. And also, it is said, please, leaders share. Leader has information. They don't audit, but they give it to other generations. Please, if this has been a blessing to you, please kindly share to others so they can also be blessed and they can learn from the older generation. Thank you so much, Mr. Stevenson. It's been a great time with you.
Greetings from Scotland.
Thank you. If you've made it this far into this video, thank you for watching. And don't forget to subscribe. so you can support your girl. Thank you.
Okay.